Hey, welcome back to James's Repair Shop. I've got a little fun video today making a bracket for the quarter window bracket. So this is it right here. I have it mounted on the piece of outer member that I built already in the previous video. So what happens here is, turned a little bit, this is the quarter window bracket and it gets bolted on through the outer member, and it also has a slot in here for where the quarter window goes on, but I don't know the exact height of that slot just yet, so I haven't put the hole in. That's just a quick job to do once I get the quarter window back in. If it wasn't so cold outside, I'd go get a quarter window and do it, but hey, it'll still be there when the time comes. And the bracket beside it is it's a stopper bracket. Well, it's a stopper. It's a support. But when the window goes all the way down, the tail of the window track, where it travels in the track, will stop on this. So when they're put together in the factory, this is how they sit. This actually is spot welded on, this bracket here, and then the other one's bolted on, and it's adjustable. But when this is spot welded on, it kind of sits under the lip of the other one. That's how it was in this car. In this video, the idea of the video is making this bracket here. And I did this bracket right here, I repaired, I'll bring it over. This bracket was heavier than 18 gauge. It must be 16 gauge, I believe. Oh, where are we? There we are. I think it's 16 gauge. So anyway, it had one side missing off of it. It needed this flange put back on, and it had a hole over here. So I did all that work, and I didn't grind the underneath, so you'll see where I welded that piece in. And then there was a spot over here somewhere where I fixed it. But I did grind it because I needed room in here. But yeah, so this bracket is good and solid now. So I didn't rebuild. I didn't make a new one of these. I just rebuilt that. Anyway, so that's not on this video. It's just, I just wanted to point that out. Time to build a bracket. I have, this is the quarter window bracket that goes on top of the outer member. You know where I had the cage nut, where the cage nut goes. Well, that's where this bolts through. And it would sit on, say this is the member in here. It will sit and be bolted down that way. This is just a 90 degree as far as I know. It has a low flange on it, not very high. And it does have an imprint, a pressed in step. There's a step in it here to raise the seating area of the bolt. And I suspect that's to allow for the cage nut. The cage nut had some clips on it that went over top. Anyway, and it appears that this is probably, according to the books I have, that this is an equal length both sides, but I'll make this top one a little longer because I'm not sure. The hole on here is for adjusting in and out, like right and left. And the hole up here will be a horizontal hole, and it allows it to adjust the front and back of the car, and the bottom one is right and left of the car. So that's what we've got. So I've just got a piece of steel here. Cleaned it up a little bit, took the oils and stuff off it. So I'm going to start marking it up. And I'm going to run it through the bead roller to tip the flanges. And the reason why I'm going to use the bead roller is it does have sort of a slight radius. If you've seen brackets, they aren't generally, a lot of times these brackets were punched and they weren't just a sharp corner. It has a slight radius, so I have a 3/8 radius die on the bead roller right now, and I'll use that. Now I may even try to bead roll with a step die in this little square here. If I do that, I'm gonna have to do it before I roll the edges. So I'm going to think about it while I'm laying it out, which is the best way, and let's get at it. Here we are. I've got it clamped down. It's probably not necessary to clamp it down. I got my jumbo Sharpie. I got my little scribe tool. And I've got my wife's sewing measuring tape. Actually, it's mine. I think I've said that before. That joke's getting old, I think. So anyway, I'm just going to measure roughly what we have here. So out to the flat where it starts to turn is 1 inch and 7/8. So the whole thing, right to the center of the radius, is 2.5 inches. So I'm going to need 5 inches, plus I'm going to leave a little bit more. So I'm going to cut a piece 6 inches long. And now these flanges and the width of the whole thing. See if I can get a measure on it all. All right, let's start at 1. Right there where there's still a piece left. So that's roughly 4.5 inches. So that's really 3.5 inches. So we started at 1 inch. So I've got 3.5 inches. So why don't we go 4 inches wide, 4 by 6 blank. Let's do that. So a 4 by 6 blank, and we'll get it cut out, and I'll start marking it up. All right. That'll be right, yep. So I'm just going to put a tick mark there. And this is square, this metal is square, so I can trust it. All right. So what I'm going to do though, before so 4 by 6, I'm going to put some layout on here with this. Mind you, I'm going to cut this with with my power shears, so anything I do will be fine. Any kind of marking is okay, because I'm taking a lot of the metal off anyway. So there's 4 by 6 right there. All right, good. I can follow that line easy enough with the power shears. And isopropyl alcohol will take that stuff off pretty good. I'll show you in a second. That marker, especially if it's relatively fresh. So I'm going to cut it out, leaving the full 4 inches. So the right side of my cutter will be going along the line. See if I can do this without making a mess of it. That aside, oh, a little wavy, but that's okay, not bad. And I'm going to leave the full 6 inches, so the left side of the line will be the target point. Yep. There we go. All right, set that aside. So let's clean up that old, with some isopropyl. I'm using, I think it was a 90%, and I cut it back 50-50 with distilled water. Just to, you know, it doesn't need to be a full strength for this stuff. So the old IPA takes that marker stuff right off nicely. I find it gets messy around on your hands and stuff like that. The longer you leave that marker on, of course, the harder it's going to be to get off. And I have some old marks from way back when I did that fender piece. All right, then it takes that off, but that stuff's pretty old. It took a little bit of rubbing. So now it looks pretty good. Hopefully you can still see me. It's a little needing a little bit of flattening right there. No problem. All right. So now I do have a square corner here. This is a tiny bit wavy, but this is going to be folded over, and a lot of that's going to be cut away anyway. The gloves off for this. So now I know that I'm going to leave just a tiny bit long here, Not much, just a little bit. So I need to find the center line, so I need 2 inches. So put a center line on. Helps a lot having a center line. There. Rough center line. So now I know there's the center of the hole. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to step it back to about there. I'm just going to mark it so I know that that's where I want it. And I'm going to hit because this 3/8 tipping die or radius die, it grabs it right at the bottom, of course, the highest point of the die. So I'm just going to want to grab it right there and right there. And since I know this is square, I can trust that if I put a line all the way up, this way. That's why I was using the edge of the bench. It gives me a little more meat for the square. All right. So first, because I want to, no, I can follow this without the marker on it. Actually, it'd be better because it doesn't get messed up the dies. Oops. All right, that looks pretty good. So the plan, really the plan is to tip them in the radius die on the bead roller, and then in this area here, I'll have to shrink it on the shrinker stretcher. But what I want to do, I want to take a little bit of that material away here in the middle, because I know it's going to need to shrink all that, like this area here. So why I don't need that much material in there. So I'm going to take some of that away. But first I'm going to find out where that radius starts, that bend. And we're talking right about here. That's where it starts. And if I just roll it over, and it pretty much ends right there. So this is pretty much where the bend's going to be. Now I didn't put a center line on that, and I don't think I need to. So but I am going to mark the line straight across to try to keep them as straight as possible. All right. I mean, this is rough because you can see how fast I'm mowing through it. So they aren't precise measurements. These are just guidelines. They're like stop signs. They're just a guideline until you get caught doing it, going through them, and then it's no longer a guideline. That doesn't look straight. All right, let's measure it up. Let's measure it up. I probably started from the wrong. No, I did right. Now let's measure it to make sure it's straight. Should have done that right from the beginning. So the first one is 2 1/16, and it's at 2 1/8. Yep, I get off there. So I'm off already. No good to start off, but again, it's just guidelines. Let's straighten them up while we can. So clearly that one makes the next one. That's 1 inch. Yep, they were all off a 16th. And you wouldn't think a 16th is a big deal, but really, in this work, it can be a big deal. Depends on what you're doing. This here is not a big deal in this one, but it can be a big deal in some circumstances. So, trying to get as best you can. That looks better. So I just have to remember to, this is just a guide, obviously, like I said, but I'm going to have to remember if I need those lines, the upper ones, not to use them for anything. They're etched in there now. So what I'm going to do, I want to knock out some of this material, because when I bring these up, actually what I'm going to do first, I'll bend them and then knock that material out, and then I'll have a better idea how much I need to take out. I'll run them through the bead roller. So let's get set up on the bead roller, and we'll run these two flanges. Now I have actual tipping dies, but I think that the radius is going to be too sharp for them, and that's why I went the 3/8. So let me get you set up on the. We'll get set up on the bead roller. Okay, got the bead roller set up there, just loosely. I like that I can move it around easily. Now hopefully I don't whack the corner of that tripod, because it's right where my foot needs to be. So I'm going to come in. So now I want to follow. I want this roll, this radius die to be pretty much on that line. So that line I scribed. So I'm just coming down, and I don't need a lot of pressure on this. This is my understanding. I'm not an expert on this stuff. So I'm basically splitting half of the die, so I want one half of this radius is what I'm after. Oops, that got away on me a little bit. That's a little tight. All right, I'm going to stop there with the bead roller, and I'm going to take and pound this over on my sawhorse here. So this is what we got so far. So let me just get those straightened over. Like you can see where I ran off there a little bit, so it went in too deep. So that's going to be too narrow up top. Mind you, I don't know how much I need there. Actually, that's the bottom. Sorry. There's the scratch marks, yeah. So yeah, I brought it in too much, so I'm going to have to tap that back out. No problem. All right, let me get that done. I'll get back to you. All right, I got her bent over. What I did, when I went and brought it up to the old piece, I was off. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I was off a bit, so I had to take, it was this side here. I took it on my piece of rail. Just has my rail sitting like this. There's a nice flat spot there, a nice 90. So I just tapped down that thing and moved that line over just a bit, because I was out probably it wasn't an eighth of an inch, but it was somewhere between a 16th and an eighth. And I know there's a term for that. Anyway. So that's it. So now, since I've marked off those spots, I'm going to take and cut some relief in here. I just need to keep probably, I think the height of that flange, I think, is 1/4 of an inch. Let me just go up here. Yeah, it's 1/4 of an inch flange. So I have to leave 1/4 of an inch in there. So I'll get that marked off, and we'll cut her out. I just cut some relief in that, and there's the target that we're trying to get for the curve. If it's a little either side, I'm okay with that. I'll live with it. So I've got the shrinker set up here, and let's see what we can do with this. There we go. She's almost 90, but these flanges are kind of getting in my way to get in here tight. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take these flanges off with the zip cut, and then it'll give me some room to get in tighter to straighten that all out. All right, so I'll be right back. I've taken the extra flange off. I did leave it a little bit more. I left a little bit there, but now I should be able to get in deeper in here and just straighten this out, because you can probably see it's a little twisted, just a little bit if you look at it like that. So this side here, you can see it there quite easily, is higher, so it needs to come in tighter on that side. So let's bring it in. Oh yeah, that would be better. Still running interference underneath here, but I wonder if I go like this, it would be better. Yeah, it is. So I'm going to come up here and do it. It's the same deal, just that I get in deeper on it. There we go. Oh yeah. You gotta just, you know, play around with this stuff. All right, now that side's a little bit off. I'm gonna bring this in just a little bit, and then I'm gonna check it with the square. Man, these screws do not stay in. Yeah, gotta deal with that somehow. Alrighty. Alright, doesn't take much. Just a little bit more though. There. Alright, so that's not a bad looking bracket. Yeah. So I'm going to measure it with the square on both sides and then adjust what needs to be done there. So just give me a second. Should have had the square ready because I knew I was going to be doing this. Well, that's 90 there, and it's not 90 over there. It's actually past 90 on the other side. See? And it's a little past on this side, but it's close. So I'm going to just do a little stretch on this side over here just to bring it back some. It'll only be a little bit. I think you can see my stretcher. Yeah. This stretcher comes in handy. You don't use it that much, but it does come in handy. All right, get it up the right way. Just a little. Doesn't mean much. All right, where's my square? All right. Now it's gone a little too far. This needs just, I think it needs a little stretch right up here on this one, just to bring that back some. Just to bring that back a little bit. Yeah. Good. Let's see how it looks. Too bad. Not too bad. Now they both can come. I straightened that up, yeah. So they both need just a little more. And actually not, I think it just needs a little more on this end. Right here on both sides. Just a tiny bit more shrink rather. Just to bring it, yeah, to bring it around. So that's what I'm going to do. Keep my thumb on that so I don't lose it. So a little shrink right there, just to bring that around. Okay, I'm hitting the tripod, our leg. There. I'll flip it over on the other side. Well, you know what? Oh, sorry, I whacked you. I'm going to call that 90. I'm going to just take the hammer and just this little bow in there a tiny bit. I'm just going to knock that down, but I mean, this is a bracket. So then I'm going to trim up the rest of this, and then we'll go after this hole. All right, hang in there. Right back. All right, here we are. I got her tweaked in pretty decent. I'm gonna need to just smooth those edges down so no one cuts their hands on anything, me particularly. And this is what it looks like against the old piece. Like that. And then we'll measure the width. So I can't really see that very well because I'm too close to the camera, but not too bad. So now I'm going to put this step in, this square. You probably see it on the camera better than I can. Yeah, you can see that indent. That's actually a raised piece, and I mentioned that before. All right, so let me get that done and the hole put in. All right, I got it clamped on this block of steel that I have. That comes in very handy. I don't use it often, but it's nice to use. What is that? That's 1 3/4 inches thick by 7 1/4 by 20 1/2. That's been a really good chunk of steel. So what I'm going to do, I've got my chisel. You can probably hear the heater running in the background, so don't pay no attention to that. Now this chisel is not the one I used previous. This is a little bit sharper, so I have to be careful. I didn't want the dull one because I didn't want this to be too big of a step. So I'm just going to go lightly on this. All I'm trying to do is set this down a little bit. It's not much. And then I did it lined up with the back. I just make sure it's still straight because it does move around on a fall a little bit. And I did mark off the perimeter of it. Now it's going to go all the way out where the original one stopped, but I could probably put that in too, but it's not. I'll probably do that with a pair of vice grips. Yeah, a little sharp, that chisel, but it'll do it. Just gonna get a hammer on it too hard. Maybe some light tapping would be better than solid blows. All right, let's get that moved to the other side. So you can already see how much of a step that's been putting in. So it doesn't take a lot. Ideally, I would have done this before I did all the other work, but I forgot. Probably too busy doing videos. All right, so let's go over to this side. Hopefully you can still see. Alrighty. And I get that line lined up and this back line lined up and some clamps back on it that aren't going to be in the way. I don't know how there it goes. I think I can do it there. You say it only has to be held a little bit. You got to remember now I have that step, so it's going to push it down some, and it has. But I can tweak that up, no problem. All right, the chisel. And is it square? Not quite. Clamp is just a little in the way. So that's okay. I'm not going to do too much more. Just want it to look like. Alright, I'm going to call it enough of that before I puncture that through. So what I'm going to do now, I'll take my hammer, body hammer, and I'll just you know, level that out kind of just around to make it nice. Probably set it up there like that. A little shy of imprinting there, so maybe I'll just use the cross peen on the hammer and just freshen it up some. All right, let me get that done and we'll cut the hole out. There, I put in that hole print. I just took the body hammer and I just put it over that sharp edge of that big block and just tapped it down. So now I've got the holes marked. I was going to drill a couple of 1/8 holes in them. In that. You can still see what I'm doing there, kind of. Alright, just a couple of 1/8 holes, nothing special. I countersunk them, so I just used the old piece, the old bracket, just for a guideline. Alright, one. Get in there, you. Alright. This is not a... This bit might need a bit of sharpening. It wants to walk all over the place. Alright, well, the hole might not be 100%, but we'll get her. There. A little corrective action onto it. Attitude adjustment on the hole. There, that's not bad. So now, got the 1/8 holes in, and I do that, and I'll use a stepper bit to open them up a little bit. Now we'll see how far this goes up. So we only have to go up to 3/8 on the stepper bit. There we go, 3/8. And I'm probably going to have to move this off the bench because it's probably going to be drilling. That'll be alright. There, that's 3/8 there. And we'll do the other one at 3/8. The battery life. There. 2 3/8. And then I'll just use my air saw to cut out the remainder. Where's Mr. Air Saw? He's right here. All right. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but that's what I'm doing. Just using the air saw to cut it out. So, and then I'll file it down a little bit. Oh, need a new blade on that. There we go. Yeah, that blade's has seen better days. I wonder if my die grinder will fit in there. Actually, I think I have. No, it won't. Let me do the file. If my file will even fit in there, I'm not sure. We might be able to get a little bit of meat off it by going this way too. Fail. That's a fail. Oh my. All right, let me get the file, and we'll go at her. Actually, I almost forgot. My daughter, she gave me a set of these Tata. I don't know, they're Tata tools. That's what I have on my die grinder now, and I find them really good. They stay sharp. I got a lot of use out of them. But she gave me a whole set, and I see in that set there's some ones that would probably work quite well. These are 1/4 inch shank. I'm gonna go with this tapered one. 1/4 inch shank. Thanks, Kate, for the Christmas present. Came in handy already. All right, let me get that set up in the die grinder, and I'll bring you back. Hopefully you saw all that. All right, got the little tapered double cut carbide in there, carbide burr. And now it's time to hog this out a little bit. Man, I got an air leak and I don't like air leaks. Wow. Some of these fittings don't work together very well. Alright, I'm getting the place to hold this so I can show you and not cut my hands off at the same time. Alright, I'll just do it. Now be careful if these are extremely sharp, so if you're doing this and you get a set of these, you keep gloves on because they'll cut your fingers fast, especially at the speeds they travel. Alright, so let's see if I can get this done. Alright, I'm going to go in here, do it the same. And they do chatter a bit, especially if you can't get a good firm grip on it. There. Not the prettiest hole in the world, but it's a hole. It's a little short of the other one though. The other one was longer. So which way is it longer? A little on both ends. Alright, so we'll take a little bit out on both ends. Not much, just a little. Yep. The light touch is all you need. There now. Compressor kicked in, so it got a little noisy in here. I'm going to call it quits on this bracket. I'm going to give it a little rub with some sandpaper, and then I'm going to hit it with some etch primer, and then we'll deal with that hole after, that other adjustment hole, once I get the quarter window back in the car. So I need two of these. So I've got one done. So there's a video right there, guys, on simple bracket, how I did it. I'm not an expert, but these are the steps I took. This took about an hour and a half in total, including, you know, monkeying around with the jaws on the shrinker and stuff like that, which didn't take long. But yeah, so an hour and a half worth of work, a little bit of steel, some tools. Fellow can get himself a bracket made. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.